Well, 5S as a tool is always going to be applicable to really any process that you're doing. So people tend to want to have things organized. People want to know where things are. They want to be able to count on it. It's certainly going to be more impactful in some situations than others. A lot of times when you see in a lean textbook, you might see graphs or organizational charts of different tools that say that certainly 5S can be one of those real base tools and things that you should really kick off your efforts with. I don't know if I subscribe that you should do that every time because that's going to have a lot to do with the impact of what you're trying to do. Which tool do you pull out of your toolbox and which one do you use first? So its ability to have impact and how much impact it's going to drive is really going to depend on the situation and at what level you're going to implement that 5S system. But it certainly is always going to have value. Even if it doesn't drive a single percentage point of efficiency in a certain area, it's certainly going to create a common language. It's going to say that, hey, that's the way we do things here. This is a consistent way that we do it, and help set the stage for more complicated and deeper process changes and improvements in the business. But oftentimes it can drive huge improvements in and of itself depending on the situation. Well, certainly 5S and walking through, if you're going to use that as a tool in a certain area, doing a good job of communicating it out front, of why we're doing it and who's going to be involved and what areas are going to be involved and who owns what. It's no different than any other change or thing that's coming down the pipe in an organization. You got to make sure people are communicated about it. You know, we work with hundreds of companies at Definity Partners, and we always hear, hey, we need to communicate more around here. We need to talk more around here. I don't know what's going on. So this will just be another opportunity for people to feel that way, as opposed to, again, the tool itself should be something that gets people engaged and makes them feel owners of their area and helping them do something that they want to do. So making sure you do a good job of communicating that out front, and then making sure the owners of it know that it's important to it, and then from a management standpoint, letting them know that, hey, this is something that we're going to stick to. This is something that's important, and being dedicated to it. I would say the worst thing you can do, and what we've seen with organizations, whether it's 5S or any process changes, is kicking that off and starting with your organization, but then not sticking to it. You'll be worse off than you were when you started with it, because it'll become the flavor of the day or the flavor of the month, and if you try to restart it down the road, it'll be twice as hard to get it going then than it was the first time you did it, because people will learn, hey, I can ignore this for a while, management will let this go. So you better make sure you're dedicated to it. And I think those are the most important to it, because the tool itself, in many cases, is not that hard. It's getting the people to buy in and getting people to take ownership. That's the hard part about it. I'd say the most important step in any 5S process is really the way that you kick it off, meaning the way that you communicate it to the team in the area. And what I mean by that is who's involved, what areas are going to be involved, who's going to take ownership of it, who's going to be held accountable for it, and then describing why we're doing it and why it's important and what's that going to lead to. It can't just be a 5S program in and of itself. I think the teams typically see through that, or they're not going to see the value in why is that the case. You know, why are we doing this? How is this going to help us? Why is this not just going to be extra work for me? What you want people to do is understand that this is a tool and a step in our process, and it's going to help us, improve the business on a larger scale, and it's going to serve as a base for us to build as a best practice and a consistent language that we can all use that will allow us all to become more successful in what we do. So kicking it off right and over communicating, however much communication you think you're going to do around it, double that and you'll probably be pretty close to what you're looking for. The most challenging is really going to be that organizational sustainment of it. We've worked with hundreds of organizations over the years, and oftentimes 5S will get a black eye, or you'll hear people say, yeah, we did that before here, or that's just housekeeping, or that isn't what I came here to do today. And a lot of times that's not because 5S as a tool isn't good, it's just that we didn't do a good job of sustaining it. And making sure that it's important to everyone, and everyone from a management all the way down to the individuals on the floor in the office that are doing it, making sure that we're dedicated to this and we're going to continue to do it. If you're not ready to do it, if you're not going to stick to it, you're going to be worse off down the road. People are going to see that as a flavor of the day or a flavor of the month and say that, yeah, here we go again, or I just have to wait this one out and I have to do it. And if you pick it back up, on whether it's 5S or a different process change or a improvement that you want to drive down the line, people are going to remember that. And and there's going to be twice as hard to get the momentum going on that. So really being dedicated to that sustain is oftentimes the most difficult. It's not the most exciting of cleaning things up and getting people involved and organize it, and it looks real visual when you make all those changes to begin with. The real hard work just begins after that. People think, oh wow, we put a lot of effort in it and a lot of elbow grease, but the hard part might be the continuing of that down the line process. AkroMils buildings can really help you. I mean, in the end, when you're sorting and organizing your areas, tools like this are invaluable. Certainly, the AkroMils bin here, this indicator of if you're setting up a two bin system, or an indicator of when you're running out of a part, to be able to flip that around and have a clear indication to whoever's doing the refilling of these, and then that process change that you've done, so that you don't run out of parts and that we always have what we need. I've never been anywhere where they say, hey, we don't need more material handling around here, somebody's got to bring us parts. Well, part of the challenge is doing the best with the material handling and the resources that we do have. And something like this really allows you, when we are refilling bins, we're not just refilling the bins on the bottom or the bins on the top because of the first ones I came to. I'm going to go to the bins that are empty, and the ones that our process has told us and is indicating to us that these are the ones that are running out. And they're not running out because the computer system told me to reorder those and somebody put in the wrong numbers, or maybe we didn't put in yesterday's usage. I'm doing it because I'm looking at this bin right here and it's saying, we're out of this part. I don't know where they all went. Maybe we should have more than that we say we have in the system, but we'll worry about that later in the day. But right now I need to make sure production keeps going through and that I don't run out of that. So, and then certainly something like this, the inside bin that AkroMils has here, a clean bin depending on the application, certainly can help you. Oftentimes keeping parts clean, or what you have in there, is going to be tough and is going to be very important for the process. Might actually drive part of the waste or the challenges that you'll have in production with quality and consistency of that, and keeping those parts clean on that, it will be important. Or as a lean person or a process improvement guy, I'm a big fan of making things visual and being able to see things. I want my supervisors to be able to walk down that line, or my leads to be able to know, am I out or am I not out on that, depending on what those are. And oftentimes we can't have a lot of parts on there because they might be really expensive, or there might be reasons why that is. So I need to have a quick way of knowing, do I have what I need, and is it the quantity I need, and I'm out. So this gives you a great opportunity to be able to do that. And like I said, in many cases, maybe even keep them clean and such. Yeah, certainly what we've seen over the years is oftentimes making sure that you pick the right tool, or maybe the easiest way to do it. And sometimes it might not be the most exciting, or I've certainly seen individuals that say, I want something that's automated, or something that's more 21st century. But I'll say that just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. Certainly 5S in and of itself isn't always an easy thing to get done and to sustain, because there's human beings involved, and humans are tough to be able to do that. And just because it's a software or it's something brand new and expensive doesn't necessarily mean that it's more important or can be more impactful. If anything, what I've seen, if it's something simple, something that you can use, and that people can be involved in the implementation of it and take ownership of that, they're going to be much more apt to be able to continue to do it and want to do it on a regular basis and see it as something that they can do. So certainly something as a bin and organizing your workplace and setting things in order, these can be real powerful. Don't underestimate their ability to drive improvements. Again, the biggest advice that I would give to anybody that's thinking about implementing 5S is I'd make sure that you're really dedicated to it, and make sure that the management group says, or the people involved say, this is what we're going to do and we're going to stick to it. Because one of the worst things you can do is, with any continuous improvement process, with any of the change tools that you're going to drive, human beings don't like change. They inherently don't want to be changed. Everybody likes change right up until the point where it comes in their area. So if you're going to involve them in a 5S program, make sure that you're dedicated to it, and that this is something that you've all agreed on, and that it's now going to be part of what you're going to work on week in and week out. Because the worst thing you can do is start it and then let it fall and let it fade, because the next time you want to pick something up like that, whether it's 5S or any other business change that you're going to offer up to your team, they're going to remember that, and it's going to be twice as hard to drive those improvements down the road if you didn't stick to this one. So I think being dedicated and a consistency of message from that management team, both to the group the group that's being announced to, but also to having the management team look at themselves and say, Is this something that we're ready for? Are we going to dedicate the resources? Are we going to hold ourselves accountable that this is something important that we're going to stick to? And I feel like that 5S is important today, if not more important today than it ever has been. I've had opportunities to work with managers and supervisors, and knowing that they feel like they're wearing multiple hats. They're doing more now than they ever did before, and making sure that their people and their employees have what they need, whether that be tools, whether that be parts, information. They need to have what they need to be able to do their jobs effectively, and supervisors don't have time to be going around and double checking this and chasing down things like that. They need to be able to have the process run itself. It needs to be visual. It needs to be something that they can look at a glance to check in on, because maybe they are going to have to go to that meeting, or maybe they've been involved in something all morning, and they still got to know what's going on in their area, and they still have to know what's going on in the process and whether we're having a good day or a bad day. So 5S is as important today as it's ever been, to help make your processes visual, to help make your processes run more smoothly, and for the people themselves to really take ownership of it and understand it, and not just the supervisors and not just managers.